for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk.
You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about how family is not always what you expect. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
It's time! After we give Bartrand our gold and maps, then it's time to select our party and get going. But not before Leandra begs us to leave our little sibling home. She never wants us to do anything fun. No matter who Hawk takes along, it is a long march through the deep roads until we hit a cave-in. Hawk must take initiative and clear out the dangerous side passages of the Darkspawn before the party can progress. Along the way, we find a familiar face with some familiar and yet still mind-boggling enchantments, and not enchantments. Once we find the creepy primeval tag, everything goes to shit. Bartrand betrays us over an idol made of lyrium, we discover some ancient hungry rock wraiths, and a demon offers us a deal so we can leave. Will everyone survive the expedition? What becomes of the Hawk family?
Bum, bum, ba.
I know. It's harrowing.
It's so dramatic.
It is. I played this at 6:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's one way to do it.
Well, I was too tired to focus yesterday. I had intended to play last night, but I was so exhausted. I couldn't focus on anything. So I just put on the Librarians and I laid on the couch and I almost passed out. So I woke up at 6 a.m. and I was like, now is the time to play Dragon Age.
Obviously, makes perfect sense.
So I don't know about you, but I took my time. I went through my inventory. I reassigned things to people to make sure everybody had the weapons I wanted them to have. Made sure that amulets and their rings and their belts were up to date. I went through the people I wasn't going to take just to make sure that they had stuff before I trashed everything. What else did I do? I went to the Black Emporium. You know that guy?
Yeah.
And I bought some potions. I've decided that the Darkspawn potion, it's not worth it.
I don't even know what that is.
So there's a potion that you can get that it's a purifying potion and it increases your attack against Darkspawn for half an hour.
Okay.
It wasn't worth it.
No, I mean, I can't imagine. I'm also playing on casual, so I don't think it matters anyway.
Yeah.
Although, I did have trouble with the final boss of this area. We'll get to that.
Well, we will get to that. Okay, you probably didn't clock this because what's the fucking point of this? After making sure everyone is equipped, selling all my junk and buying some bonus potions, I was at 89 gold.
I don't know what I was at, but I still had a ton of gold after giving Bartrand 50, so.
Yeah, so I was pretty proud of myself. I was just like, hell yeah, knowing how to budget. Take that, bread loser.
I also love that because it's been so long since we recruited Anders, and the whole reason we recruited Anders in the first place is because he was a former Grey Warden, which I've completely forgot at this point. Not completely, but like it wasn't at the front of my mind. It was him wanting to avenge the mages, his friends he lost, whatever. And so when we talked to Bartrand, and he's like, thanks for the money and the maps, I went, maps? Oh, right. That was the whole reason we spoke to Anders, is we wanted maps of the deep roads.
Yeah. I did really appreciate that when you give Bartrand the maps and he goes, where the hell did you get these? Anders chimes in and says, a wizard did it.
It's very, very snarky, yeah.
Like with this smug shit-eating face. I love him. And when Varric talks to Bartrand, he's so condescending, but also buttery.
Yeah, and his tone of voice is completely different from when he talks normally.
Yeah, like he's trying to bribe a toddler out of having a tantrum.
Basically. Like it's clear that he still doesn't trust Bartrand, but either way, he still wants to work with him because it's his brother, and like there is some love, but mostly he just wants in on the thing.
Yeah. I don't know. It reminds me that Varric is like a man of many faces, and he's not the same for everyone. He's who he has to be for whoever he's talking to. And like with Bartrand, he's so used to being like bribing a toddler out of a tantrum and being like, okay, overly reasonable. This is what we're going to do, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we'll get to this more in the later games, but Varric is portrayed very differently in the next two games than he is here. And I don't think it's because the character's inconsistent. I think it's because, well, one, the version of Varric we're seeing is the story Varric is telling, so who the hell knows?
So there's that.
But also, the Varric we get in later games is because of this game and what happens in this game.
I agree. He sobers significantly. Like his personality, I don't want to say dims, but he becomes a little more serious.
Yeah. I mean, he's still a wise ass, but like he definitely he's not someone who at this point in the story thinks about his own future much more than the next gold he can get to survive longer. Whereas after this story, that seems to change, and especially after Inquisition.
Like, this Varric is like, party good time Varric.
Yeah.
Like, let's make money together.
Yeah.
Everything's gonna be golden. And then Varric later is like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna kick your ass at poker, but I didn't know.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, my poor sweet man. My poor sweet dwarf.
Anyway, moving on. Before we can get underway, even though Bartrand is quick to want to get going,
I hate Bartrand.
he is not good.
Before things even happen with Bartrand,
Yeah.
and he's talking about the deep roads, he says they're nice and virginal, ready for a good deflowering. And I'm like, ew.
Yeah, and Varric gives you this look of like, I'm so sorry.
I feel violated.
He's gross. He's typical gross male
I did not
dwarf.
consent to this.
But while he's giving his speech about the deep roads, we are interrupted by Leandra, who is in hysterics.
Okay. So it could be my own issues with my mom breaking into my feelings about Leandra, but I do not like her. I think she is not a great mom. At least not to Hawk.
It's interesting. In my first playthrough, I might not have clocked her behavior and just thought she was compassionate and cared. But now, having played through the opening of this game more than once and paying more attention in detail to the story as we do for these playthroughs, she does seem overprotective and like she's too much. She's basically pleading with you not to take your sibling. And mind you, we haven't chosen our party yet. This is narrative to then lead into whether we choose who we choose for our party. Except for Varric. Obviously, Varric has to come no matter what. But she's in hysterics because she's afraid to lose another child and begs Hawk not to bring, not even the, like, doesn't even beg the sibling, begs Hawk not to bring the sibling. Like, continuing to look over the other sibling, which she does constantly, but then begging Hawk not to take them. And then Bethany, I assume, and Carver have to stand up for themselves and be like, I want to go.
On the flip side of that, you say that she goes over the sibling's head to defer to Hawk. At the same time, she completely ignores Hawk and looks at the sibling to be like, what if something happens to you?
That's true.
Not even concerned about Hawk. Like, she could easily just be like, you shouldn't go on this expedition, I have a bad feeling about it, to both of you.
Right, but she doesn't.
Like, she
like
only
pleads
cares
with
about
Hawk.
your little sibling.
Right, she pleads with Hawk, but only seems to care about your younger sibling.
And when your younger sibling does reply saying, like, Mom, I want to go, this is important to me too, the way she looks at you before she leaves, like, oh, this is a Leandra hate account. Like, no Leandra love here, only Leandra hate. I think she is not a good mom.
Yeah.
She is, she makes me angry. And it could be because my own mom is kind of a jerk, but I don't know. I didn't like her before.
I mean, you weren't. I don't know that it has. I mean, I think everything we translate here has to do with something, but I think mostly it's legit. Like, I see what you see.
Yeah.
My relationship with my mother is
I'm not
different
like
than yours.
overreacting.
I don't think so. I mean, I think that this is a character who's meant to show that she cares for her siblings, but has also not gotten over what she blames Hawk for,
Yeah.
right?
Like, she completely blames Hawk. And you know what? For a while there, I forgot that Cassandra existed.
Yes. But before we get to that, we should talk about who we brought. So I brought Carver, Varric, and Anders.
I brought Bethany, Varric, and Anders. Varric, we have no choice.
And Anders, basically, we have no choice if you want to be healed.
Correct. And also, I love him.
I mean, yes, you do. I'm coming around.
He's my
him.
boyfriend.
I know.
I love him deeply. And I brought Bethany because, like, she was in on this from the beginning. She was she was also part of the conversation of, hey, let us onto the expedition. Like, we need this. So it mattered to her as much.
Yeah, which makes sense. And I brought Carver for similar reasons. So in the last episode, those who listened, if this is your first episode, thanks, I guess. Seems strange to start in the middle of this season, but you know. But I mentioned that I finally did my sibling quest with Carver. We realized where his namesake came from and kind of bonded a bit. And between that moment and just the way Carver has made it very clear that he wants to show that he can do for himself. He's tired of living under the shadow of Bethany's death as well. It made sense for me to bring him. And also, I'm tired of Aveline's shit. and Fenris too. I did a couple of side missions with Fenris, and all he did was bicker with Varric and was like, enough. Children, if you can't get along, I have to separate you. And so I needed a tank, so Carver came.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Like, that's the squad.
Yep.
And not for any meta reasons whatsoever.
I mean, look, I'm aware of what happens to the sibling you don't bring in Bethany because I've played that before. But I don't have Bethany this time. In my playthrough, she's in the dirt. So.
Not even in the dirt, just on it. We couldn't bury her. We didn't have time.
That's true.
Oh, Bethany. R.I.P.
Yes. But you're right. Yeah, we do get a story break here where Cassandra starts bickering with Varric as she's wont to do. And it's very easy to forget that this whole game is Varric telling a story because they go so long between showing that. And there's no narration. Like, there could be, like, as we have to go explore the ruins, there could be, like, a Varric voiceover saying, and because the tide was blocked, we had to explore, blah, blah, blah. But they don't do any of that. So it's just moments like this that bookend, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is the story.
Yeah. And I do think they got better at that in Veilguard specifically, I feel. We had so much more of the Varric voiceover.
Yeah.
And so much more of, I'm telling you a story.
Yeah.
And I really did feel like Veilguard was me being told a story.
Yes.
Whereas this, I don't feel quite like that because there is a huge disconnect between these moments where we pop back to find Varric and Cassandra fighting. Cassandra doesn't believe that this is all just happenstance. She thought everything was a conspiracy. Everybody planned to get to Kirkwall at the same time, and they meant to sow subversion and, you know, being dastardly people. But
yeah,
no, it was just people being people and living their lives.
I do like at this point that at one moment Cassandra goes, and that Grey Warden, Anders, especially him, and I'm like, man, she's mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just very funny. Like, also knowing Varric and Cassandra's dynamic in Inquisition, it makes this scene even funnier. Also, I will flag that it does feel far apart between these moments for us, but remember, we're also spreading this out over months and months, playing a mission at a time. I feel like if you're playing the game straight through, especially if you skip the side quests, which why would you? But if you did, this would go a lot faster and might not feel as disconnected.
Maybe. I think I stand by my point, even if you're playing it straight through.
That's totally fair.
I'm going to stand by my point. If you disagree with me, please feel free to tell us so by sending us an email or posting in the Discord. We'll tell you about how to do that later. Anyway, continuing on.
Yes. So it then cuts to us doing an expedition as we would, making our way through the deep
Making our way
roads.
downtown.
And of course, only after getting a little further in, we encounter a cave-in where then Bartrand decides to talk down and demean his entire crew.
He's so angry all the time.
Constantly.
This poor guy just comes up to give him information, and Bartrand punches him in the face. He didn't cause the cave-in, Bartrand.
Yeah, he only reported on it. Literally, the saying is, don't kill the messenger.
Also, he's doing his literal job, which is to scout ahead and tell you what he finds.
Yeah,
what is
but
wrong with you?
But Hawk and Co. decide this is a good opportunity for them. My God. You're the worst.
Yes, I am.
They decide that this is a good opportunity for them to scout around. And Bartrand's like, didn't you just hear? It's too dangerous. And Varric's like, I think we'll be okay, basically.
I mean, I replied being like, good thing I'm not just a scout. This is literally why you have me. Like, come on.
Yeah. This is why you brought me.
And then we get to meet our sweet, sweet baby angel dad, Bowden.
Bowden comes over. Up until this point, you've probably interacted with Bowden loosely to sell goods and do enchantments, as in the previous game. But he comes over because his sweet son, Sandal, has wandered off. And it's at that point that you can be like, wandered off? What makes you think he's still alive?
Well, I chose to be nice to Bowden because he's just a frazzled dad. I'm only mean to people who deserves it.
I mean, the way Hawk frames it is like, how do you know he's still okay? There's a lot of dangers around here. And basically Bowden's like, my son has a way of surviving. He just sometimes gets confused and lost. Like, okay.
Sweet baby Sandal. Yeah, so he says, I should have been harsher with my warnings. Oh, buddy, you're a good dad. You're trying your best.
So we can agree at this point, which of course we both do.
Yeah. Why would I be like, he's on his own? He's just a little guy.
I mean, they're both little guys, to be specific. We're in a crew of little guys.
They're literally little guys, but they're also emotionally just little guys.
And so while we explore, we can agree, and we do, to look for a sandal as we're exploring to find a way around the cave-in.
Can I tell you, the second we start exploring and we go through this passageway, Bethany has the audacity to say, I should have listened to Mother. No, the fuck you shouldn't have. You wanted to go. And you said, Hawk, I changed my mind. I think I should stay home with Mother. Then I would have fucking left you there.
For the record, Carver doesn't say anything like that.
Fucking Carver.
I mean, he's more stubborn and he wouldn't admit it even if he felt it anyway. So there's that. Yeah. But Anders does have a comment about the deep roads once we get moving. And he's like, the goddamn deep roads. Why did I come back here? I knew this was a terrible idea. Just not happy to be back in the deep roads.
I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry to traumatize you all over again. So as we explore, of course, Darkspawn attack, as they are wont to do. Want to do? What?
Yeah.
To do?
Want to do.
Want to do? What?
As in wanting.
I don't know.
What the Darkspawn want?
I have 2 degrees in words, and I don't know.
That's fair.
I have 2.5 degrees in words. 2 2/3.
2 3/4.
No, 2 2/3.
Okay.
Because I'm in my 3rd year.
Yes, math.
So the Darkspawn attack, I did try out that Elixir of Purity, which gives more attack on the Darkspawn. I mean, I was meh on it.
Yeah.
And this game messes with my memory because I guess it's just been that long since I played it, but I've played it so many times that I remember it well, but it's been long enough that my memories are a little jumbled. So we walk into the first area and there's this pit and I'm like, oh, I don't like it. I don't like that there's a pit there. It makes me unhappy. But nothing happens in the pit. And I was like, why
No.
was I so stressed out about the pit? Then you go into the next room and that has a pit. I was like, ah! You motherfucker! So, in that pit, we get attacked by spiders. And Jerry Tokes, I hope you are spinning in your grave because it is your fault that we have giant spiders in every fantasy media.
It's
I
true.
hate it.
Yeah.
Actually, the best thing about Eternal Strands, no fantasy spiders.
Correct.
Fantasy mosquitoes, however.
And I've encountered quite a few games recently that have allowed you to turn on an arachnophobia mode that removes all spiders from the game.
I would like that. I would Dragon Age. Listen. Dragon Age devs.
Stop it.
Put that on the list.
But yeah, the fighting through the caves is mostly uneventful. It's a dungeon layout that we will see again because, of course, we will. But it's pretty straightforward. I am at a point now where I have enough of the primal tree that I have the 2 really good AoE spells, including like the storm you can summon in a large
you just
area.
spam them.
Basically, like I don't single target things anymore, except chain lightning because now it jumps further.
Yeah.
But like I basically, once Carver runs in and pulls all the darkspawn to one area, I summon the giant lightning storm, and then they just all
That's
fall
smart.
over.
That's good strategy. I am not a good strategist. I run in and I stab.
Well, part of it is because I got suckered into playing a mage in this playthrough.
Suckered, they say.
I hate how like clicking to attack works in this, mostly because on PC I just find it's more difficult because you also click to move, which I hate. I just do my area effect spells because they just happen in that area and I'm not going to click to move by accident. And so I also did summon my dog for this, so I technically had 2 tanks.
Doggy.
And I'm curious.
I also summoned dog.
I am curious if in the future, if I just bring the dog and 2 mages and a rogue, will Anders keep the dog alive? I don't remember if you can heal him or not.
No.
You can't? Okay.
No.
I didn't think so.
But you can resummon him.
Right. But there's a cooldown after he dies or
Yeah,
disappears.
but it's not super long.
No.
Wait, the headcanon is he runs off to lick his wounds and then he comes back.
Right. Right.
that is the headcanon.
Right.
Hercules never dies.
Yeah, exactly.
So we stumble onto Sandal. It's a cutscene. It's not even we find him. He is just there.
Yeah. And he is surrounded by dead dog spawn again. And Carver immediately, this is the most charming moment with Carver in the whole game, goes, "Hey, look at you, little guy. Good job." Like, not condescending. Absolutely just in support. It's just really actually quite adorable.
That is sweet. Good on you, Carver. Sandal looks 10 times creepier than in Origins.
Correct.
I would like to say.
And in Origins, he was covered in blood.
It's like, why are you so creepy?
I do love the camera angles here because as you're talking to Sandal, you're like, how'd you do all this? And just shows the rune that he used to blow stuff up. And then Hawk goes, "But how'd you do that?" And the camera cuts to the orc that's frozen out of frame. And
Yeah, that was good.
that was just well done. And he's like, "Not enchantment?"
He's an amazing little weirdo.
He is.
Yeah, and then we fight so many darkspawn.
Yep. And then the final boss of the area is we fight a dragon and dragonlings with no explanation.
A dragon. It's just there.
Because it's
underground.
Because it's in the name.
There has to be at least one dragon in Dragon Age.
I mean, we've fought a bunch of dragonlings so far. Sometimes without a dragon around, just the dragonlings.
I think the second dragon that we fought.
I think so. Definitely.
Oh no, we didn't fight that dragon yet. So this is the first dragon.
Right. We'd fought dragonlings on the Wounded Coast, I think, at
Yeah.
one point, but not an actual full
in,
dragon.
The bone pit.
In the bone pit.
In the bone pit, there were baby dragons.
Yep. Bone pit, not as fountain as it sounds. A reminder.
Unless it's my house. My roommate loves that. I call the house the bone pit.
Of course.
He's delighted. Though my partner misses the days when we called it the Mojo Dojo Castle House.
I mean, that is also a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, so we did it. We had to fight a dragon, but we fucking did
We
it.
found another path.
And Bartrand is just like, I don't care.
Yeah. Like, good. We can
Like,
keep
not
moving.
even a good job.
Nothing.
Not an, are you okay? Would you like a health potion? Nothing.
No. Has no care for us at all.
We fought a dragon, Bartrand. I would like some appreciation. I would like a parade, please.
We're not going to get
Every
one.
time I fight a dragon, I deserve a parade.
Spoiler alert, you're not going to get one.
But I deserve one. You should know that.
Okay.
So we find the tag, and it's not what Bartrand was expecting. There's no Paragon statues, no familiar markings. Bartrand is horribly confused and doesn't know what, like, kind of sect of dwarves would even be living here.
I love this because it is connected to something that I forgot there was a connection to when I played it in the Veilguard. And I think that's awesome because ancient dwarves do come up in the Veilguard, and like a sect of dwarves before paragons and all of that. And like, that's what this is. And it's so interesting to me replaying these games now, having played the Veilguard so recently, and seeing where the connective tissue is, that the game is just not a game removed of the other three, even though a lot of people felt like it was. And so anyway, I won't get into spoilers about how it's connected, but I really do like that I'm starting to see this connective tissue. But yeah, so we find an ancient Tig, and we're like trying to explore and understand the space, and we decide we're going to go off on our own again because we're bored and we don't want to listen to Bartrand bitch and moan.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta look around. We gotta find some treasure.
I mean, that's the whole reason we're here.
But Bowden is so happy that we found his boy.
He is.
But there was absolutely no effort involved.
No, we literally just found him. Like,
I'm pretty sure he'd have come back on his own.
basically.
It would have been fine.
Or if we all had to go that path because we found an alternate path, we would have just found him on the way as a group anyway.
It was gonna be okay. But yeah, so we go exploring. We find some shades.
Yeah, not a good sign.
And a golem.
Not good signs.
And we find a primeval Tig.
Yes.
I'm sure it's fine.
I'm sure it's fine. And then in that primeval Tig, we find a lyrium idol.
Anders is not happy with.
No, he thinks it's bad. And also, but Varric sees dollar signs.
Because it's rare, it's unique.
Yep.
Well, it'll fetch some coin. Bartrand follows us in. Varric tells him about the idol, tosses it to him, and then Bartrand locks us in.
Yeah, I completely forgot about this. I knew that Bartrand was a jerk, but I forgot that he locks us in and betrays us.
About the utter betrayal.
Yes, and then the camera cuts to the scene outside the door as Bartrand kind of longingly looks at the idol and wanders off, and I'm like, this is bad. Like, it was bad,
Well,
but this seems worse.
He talks about how he won't split the fortune 3 ways. Like, there's so much here, and he doesn't want to lose out on it. And vocally, he's very focused on, like, the greed aspect.
Yeah.
But in his hand, the idol is glowing.
Yeah, so clearly there's something going on here. Like, I don't doubt that he probably would have betrayed us anyway, but there's, like, the idol is involved, I feel like.
Yeah, so now we have to find a way out. Fortunately, it is a straight line.
Yes, we have to escape.
We have to escape. So my memories, like I said, are like all fumbly about it because I'm like, I remember things are suspicious, but I don't remember what exactly is suspicious.
Right.
So in the room where we fight like 10 more shades, there's 4 chests, and I'm like, one of these is going to be a shade.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be very upset about it. But none of them were shades. So I wonder what will happen later that will turn out to be a shade.
Exactly.
And then we discover a new type of monster.
Yes, we start fighting the profane, as they're called.
Can I read the codex entry?
Sure.
The codex says, "We who are forgotten remember. We clawed at rock until our fingers bled. We cried out for justice, but were unheard. Our children wept in hunger, and so we feasted upon the gods. Here we wait in eons of silence. We few, we profane."
That is a cool thing. I wish it was in the game and not in a codex entry.
What does that mean?
Yeah. I mean, as we fight our way through, Varric basically says they're ancient rock elementals that were rumored to exist, but nobody actually thought existed.
Man, this game really loves throwing shade.
Yeah. Ah ha ha ha.
Hey!
Boo.
We find a lot of shades.
We do, and a lot of the profane until we meet one that speaks.
So yeah, this freaky rock monster starts talking to us. The rock wraiths hunger. The profane have lingered in this place for ages beyond memory, feeding on the corrupted lyrium. And we discover that it is a demon of hunger.
And that it wants us to let it keep feeding and offers us a deal. It will help us escape if we let it continue to feed. And it's at this point that Anders goes, I'm pretty sure any deal with a demon is bad, so this is bad.
Yeah. Demons will trip you up every time.
And so you are given a choice here to either agree to the demon's conditions or say no and piss it off.
Yeah, I mean, my mage friends are telling me that this is a bad idea. Like, my sister's like, I don't know about this. And Anders, the professional mage warden, is like, absolutely not. Meanwhile, Varric's like, I don't know, what do you think? I don't know, what do you think? Like, we're two idiots just be like, oh.
Meanwhile, I get an opportunity to call him out and go, wait, you're not a rock wraith, you're a demon. And that's when he makes the offer. And so I had to refuse it. Like, narratively, it would make no sense for me to agree. I'm a mage who doesn't like demons, knows how bad demons are. No, thank you.
Yeah, that's fair. So I also refused because, I mean, 2 out of 2 experts can't be wrong.
That's true.
So, yeah. The demons and the profane attack, but we beat them, and then we progress.
Yep.
And we're like, hey, there's the door.
Yeah.
Why is this big demon guy glowing red? Oh, no.
Yes. So, there's a boss fight here. And I'd say one of the more interesting boss fights we've had so far.
I agree.
Because there's a mechanic to it that killed me the first time.
Yes, me too, because I forgot.
Same. So this rock wraith, while you're fighting him, eventually charges up a ton of energy and then shoots out this red light that slowly damages you. And at first, I was like, oh, I'll just fight my way through it because I'm stubborn, and I died. What you need to do is when he does that, there are pillars around the room that you can hide behind. And I was worried my companions wouldn't follow, but thankfully, if you do it, they are programmatically designed to follow you and also hide, which worked out great.
So, kind of. I remembered that you're supposed to hide behind the pillars. However, I forgot that you can also, like, switch characters and have people hold position.
Yeah.
So, like, if not everybody is in the shadow of the pillar, you can switch over and have them scooch.
Yeah.
Because my problem was people would be close to the pillar, but not quite in the safe zone.
Interesting. Yeah, I got lucky. I think I pulled Hawk close enough to the camera, far enough back behind the pillar that everyone would file in.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, the further you are from the pillar, the wider the
cone
safe
is.
zone
And
is.
so I got lucky there. So on the second playthrough, it was much easier, but still not a cakewalk. And
yeah,
I felt a lot of fun. Like, boss fights in these games tend to just be damage sponges. You just got to survive. But this actually had mechanics. It reminded me of some early MMO like boss fights in dungeons, and it's just like, I like when a game challenges you in a way that's just not survive. And this is the first time I feel like in this game we've gotten that. And so it felt worthwhile.
I completely agree with you. When I remembered that there was a trick to it, I was like, ow!
Right.
And it was more delightful. And I was like, oh, now I'm going to live. And it feels earned.
Yes, exactly. Like, I learned my lesson.
So we win.
Yep.
We defeat him. We get the key.
Yeah.
And we also find a bunch of treasure. Yay!
And the irony here is that, like, he says you'll never find your way out. And then we kill him and we find a key right next to the door.
The door's right there.
Yeah, like,
that's the door.
Like, I get it's dungeon design, whatever. It just feels very silly.
As we're emerging from the depths, Varric is talking about how rock wraiths aren't even supposed to be real.
Yeah.
We make our way out of the deep roads. We're back where we started 5 days later, but our sibling is not feeling well.
Yes, they both I assume it happens to both the same way, but they ask if we can rest. You say yes, and then they kind of collapse.
Or if you're a jerk, you say no.
I suppose, but I don't think you were a jerk.
No, I wasn't.
And it is here where Anders quickly recognizes that your sibling has the taint, as it were.
The blight.
The blight.
They've been tainted by the bark spawn. No, by the dark spawn. Bark spawn was a good boy. Would never taint anyone.
And it's here where Carver is like, oh God, I'm going to end up like Wesley. Please just kill me.
Yeah. Bethany was also like, oh no, I'm going to be like Wesley. And that's when, in the face of my siblings' defeatism, that's when I take like a more firm tone of like, I am not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
Like, that is just not an option.
Yep.
You are not going to die. We are going to figure it out. And that's when Anders tells us that there is an option. There are Grey Wardens nearby, and he could get us to them. And if our sibling is recruited by the Grey Wardens, that can mitigate the blight.
Yes. Which Carver is not stoked about, but you insist it's that or die, so...
Yeah, Bethany is also like, are we sure this is a good idea? And I'm like, you're not dying, so
yeah.
I refuse to let you die.
Yep.
And then we meet a very handsome warden named Stroud.
I'm sure he'll be important later.
Stroud is very handsome,
yes.
So he better be important later. And Stroud tells us that the wardens do not recruit out of pity, which I don't think that's entirely true.
Yeah.
I think the wardens recruit out of pity all the time.
Yes. But Anders also said, yeah, but also people aren't jumping to join you now that the blight is over. So, this person's very capable. And like Anders pretty much compliments the sibling, which for Bethany makes sense. For Carver, I was surprised.
Yeah. And like Anders pleads for our sibling in such a way that like touches my heart. Because I'm like, you really care about this person that I care about.
Yeah.
And that makes me care about you more.
Yeah.
So it made me happy. So Bethany goes with them. Carver goes with them.
Yep.
Does Carver say anything to you as he departs?
I think something along the lines of this is not the outcome he would have wanted.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Bethany tells me to take care of our mother.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we're back in Kirkwall. Varric is sorry about our sibling.
Yep. And then says if he ever sees Bartrand, he is going to murder him. And you go, please tell me so I can help you murder him, is my response.
Fair. Anders, however, is confident that our sibling will make it because they're strong.
Yep.
At least we're rich now?
Yeah, that works out.
And then we cut back to Cassandra and Varric again. And this is where Cassandra has her moment of like, that Warden Anders.
Yeah.
And Varric, bless his heart, don't remind me. I introduced them.
Yeah.
Which feels very tinged towards romance.
Yeah. Well, I heard that too,
like,
so it's definitely not, but it definitely feels like it.
I know, it feels tinged towards romance.
Yeah.
And then I didn't make notes on how Leandra reacted because I hate Leandra.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about Leandra's reaction?
Yeah, I mean, she's pretty much distraught. Like she asks if they're coming home, you shake your head, and she asks, are they alive? And you kind of shrug, basically, like you don't have any info to provide, and she is distraught.
Yeah, it drops to her knees sobbing.
I mean, she's done that a bunch already, so.
Yes, which, fair, it's your kid, but, maybe a little relief that your other kid is alive.
Yeah.
Maybe, just a little bit. Just show that you care about them too.
Yeah, basically.
Just a little bit. Yeah, so 3 years later, we've purchased a mansion in Hightown. Everyone knows who we are. Bethany did survive, and I'm guessing Carver too.
Correct.
The Canari are still there, waiting for their ship. And on that note, on a new day in Kirkwall, we find Hawke taking a meeting with the Viscount. We walk in on a conversation regarding the Canari. The Arishok has requested to speak with me.
And you can respond several ways. And I basically respond saying, yeah, I did a few things for him. We became buddy. I mean, I'm elaborating, but like basically you can respond with, yeah, I did these little things. And I guess they remember me for those things I did.
I can't help it if I make an impression.
Exactly. Basically.
The Viscount says, you are meant to have influence above your station. It's like, I will take your fucking crown. Don't try me, bitch.
Yeah. He does mention, though, that we helped his son, and he's grateful.
Yes. And he tells us to appease the air shock. I do not work at the Blooming Rose, sir.
I thought the same thing. I was like, excuse me.
How dare you? What are you telling me to do? I will not fuck that man.
And it's not that he is not attractive. It's just I have my limits.
I have a love interest.
I don't actually.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I feel like the love interest doesn't really kick in until season 2, until Act 2 anyway.
Yeah. But like, I haven't really been charmed by anybody. I mean, I will admit, although we'll talk more about this when we do his missions later, doing duty, I was a little charmed by Sebastian because I don't know any better, but that won't last.
Yeah, that won't last.
No, I know it won't, but...
Because Sebastian is straight.
Yeah, I know. But also, he's terrible.
And Christian.
Yes, very.
Like, extremely.
Yeah. Anyway.
Like, we can only be together if we're both married to the Maker.
Okay, bye.
I did a Sebastian romance once. Never again. I hated every second of it. And that is the Deep Roads Expedition. We are done with Act 1.
Woo!
Woo!
We did it.
Raise it up. Raise it up. I don't know. I'm tired.
That's fair.
I've been awake a long time.
Yes, also fair.
Anyway, what next? What do we want to talk about next?
So before we get into where we're headed in the next episode, we have a very timely reply from in the middle of the night last night from Callie about
Hell yeah, Callie.
about the bits, our Act 1 side quest.
The bits.
Since I read Callie's last message, would you like to read this time, Frankie?
Sure. Aw, I just read the first sentence and I was like, that's so sweet. You two always manage to make the many minor side quest episodes interesting, even when the side quests do not give you much to work with. To get this out of the way, a small correction. Thank you, I love corrections. The Harrowmont we meet help in DA2 is a nephew. Okay, I thought it was that guy. I thought it was the Harrowmont. Thank you for the correction. I appreciate being corrected. I would rather be right going forward.
Yes, correct.
That one was older, gray of hair, and Balin's first act of king was to have him executed. You are right. I forgot about that. Because I don't put Balin on the throne, so I never remember. Because I'm a person of taste.
Okay.
Anyway.
Chill.
Anyway, particularly enjoyed the discussion of connections to previous games and consequences of prior decisions. Agree with your assessment of the weaknesses of DA's approach. Here is another angle, how, in my opinion, DA2 was written into a no-win situation. Seeing the effects of decisions we made or events we witnessed years ago helps the world feel like it's in a realistic process of constant change. DA arguably needs that even more than Mass Effect. With a different protagonist in each game, DA is about the titular Dragon Age of Thedas and the world-changing events therein. Showing us causes and effects is crucial, but DAI and Mass Effect benefit from the fact that if we travel enough of the world and galaxy, of course we will find familiar people and see results of familiar events. DA2 happens entirely in and around the one city. So if there are too many connections to DAO's nation-spanning story, so much of that being connected to Kirkwall specifically could make Thedas feel smaller. That's valid.
That's true.
I do appreciate that. That is a very good storytelling note. While I do agree that too many would be a problem, I think there is a balance between what we got and having too many. Like,
yeah.
there's a correct number. I don't know what the number is.
Right.
But it's more than what we currently have.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
But yes, but I do agree with your note entirely, Callie. Finding a balance that felt right for even a majority of players was probably impossible. My somewhat conflicting feelings would have liked seeing more connections to DAO and more/larger consequences of those decisions, but also feel there are already enough returning characters appearing in DA2 to make the world feel small. That's true. We do get a couple later on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. I think part of it also is now having played all 4 games. I think the way the Veilguard connects back to the story is really, it's rewarding for fans of DA2. I'll just say that. It's also rewarding for fans of Inquisition, but I think the Inquisition connections are tenuous at best, feel kind of forced, especially with the Inquisitor stuff. But like the references to DAO and DA2, I think aren't fan servicey, are really coolly implemented, and some were even genuinely surprising. So, but yeah, no, I mean, this was made under a small time frame with not a lot of resources, or less than before. It was originally envisioned as some kind of expansion like Awakening, and then became its own game. Either is true or something I've heard as rumor long enough that feels true. But either way, did have a short dev cycle. And as a result, the smaller scope could be because of that. It's definitely because of that too. But I do agree that I wish there were more creative ways I think they could have tied into it, that they didn't. And it's never going to please everybody, right? This is a awkward middle child of a game, basically.
Honestly, I care less about recurring characters
Right.
than I do about connecting events.
Right.
You know? Like, hearing about a werewolf cure, I feel, is important. And, you know, if we decided to side with the werewolves over the elves, that decision just goes away entirely.
It just disappears, yeah.
It just disappears. And what I feel DAI and Veilguard lack in that respect is, like, we live in a world with werewolves.
And we don't see them again. Yeah.
We don't see them ever again.
Yeah, I think it's the world doesn't feel as interconnected as Mass Effect does as well.
Yeah. But again, like Callie says, too many, too small.
Right.
There is a balance.
Right.
And it is possible to strike it. I think it is less dependent on recurring faces, because I think that it is completely reasonable to know the news from another country.
Yeah.
Than it is to see the same people, like, in various countries.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree.
So that is where I'm at. Okay. Thank you so much for writing to us, Callie. Your insights are wonderful, and I adore you, just so you know.
Yeah. And if anyone else wants their insights or comments, questions from previous episodes read on the show, just submit them in the Discord like Callie does, or via email, or on social media. We love to hear from y'all and your thoughts on these episodes.
We'll even hash out any existential crisis that you might be going through.
That's true. We will do that. Basically,
yeah,
probably because we're, well, yes, because we love you, but also because we're probably going through them too.
Yes, we can relate.
Yes.
So it's less of us helping you and more of us being like, oh man, same.
Same, bro. Same.
Relatable. Fandom corner?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so today I'm recommending Under the Same Stars by Libba Bray. It's a contemporary historical young adult novel that follows 3 sets of teens at 3 prominent times in history. During the rise of the Third Reich, in the 80s with the punk movement surrounding the Berlin Wall, and in 2020 at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. I know those are all 3 very fraught periods of history, one of which we are still being impacted by. But the way that each of these events are handled is done with such care that I did not feel like I was being traumatized all over again. So the story explores what it means to be complacent, discovering yourself in the present tense, and how to resist tyranny. It's a fairy tale of love and hope, and it made me cry so many times, but in a really cathartic, I needed that release kind of way. Libba Bray is the smartest, funniest person, and this book is extremely timely, especially given everything going on in America right now. It's a beautiful book. America got a prettier edition than the UK, and I'm salty about it. The American copy has these gorgeous sprayed edges, and mine is boring and just regular pages. But I really loved it. It was Extremely good. I'm recommending it to everyone right now as my recommendation. Under the Same Stars, Libba Bray.
Amazing. Yeah, I thought I didn't have one, but you talking about this book reminded me of something worth mentioning. I try not to over promote other podcasts on the show, though I love my indie podcast brethren, but this feels connected words. I don't have a degree in words. I have no excuse.
I mean, communications, is that not your degree?
Shush.
This kind of words.
Corporate communications. It's a very specific set of words. But you reminded me a podcast that I adore called the Still Loading Podcast, hosted by Josh Koval, who's done a variety of side quests over on Fun and Games. Not only did I guest on a recent episode as of when we recorded this, but by the time you're hearing it, it's a few weeks old on Super Mario RPG for Mario Month, which he does every March. But he has announced that April is Punch a Nazi Month on his video game podcast. And he's covering Wolfenstein 3D, Medal of Honor Underground, and Bionic Commando, as he says, for no specific reason other than we should always talk about punching Nazis. Cough, cough.
We need to introduce this person to John.
Yes. But he's doing that in April for those 3 games, and it's definitely worth checking out just because Still Loading is a great podcast, but also because I think we will all get some catharsis about talking about video games in which you punch or shoot Nazis. So shout out to the Still Loading pod.
Hell yeah. So our next episode is the first of Act 2, where we are essentially refamiliarizing ourselves with Kirkwall 3 years later, finding our new home, our mansion in Hightown, and checking in with all of our companions to see what's changed through the years.
So yeah, a bunch of basically side quest style roundup stuff as we check in with all our companions and get situated in Hightown. So take care of all that stuff, and we will talk about it in 2 weeks.
I can't wait for our HGTV spin-off of the show.
Right.
We're going to talk about our mansion and how it was designed.
Yeah, Radar Crib, Kirkwall edition.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
All right. So if you like what you heard here, follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Blue Sky, YouTube, and Instagram, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Blue Sky as Frankie B. Writes and DJ Stormageddon.
You can rate and review and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can find us. Please take that time to rate and review. It only takes a few minutes, and it's the best free way that you can support this podcast and get more folks to check it out.
We're members of the Certain Point of View Network. Visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invitation link to our Discord server on the website. Please join the conversation.
Yep. Like we said, we want to be engaged with our audience, and if you write in about specific episodes or specific thoughts about the game we're covering in general, we would be happy to discuss them on the show. We love doing it. As for plugging stuff, I, of course, always have the Fun and Games podcast that I do with the incredible Jeff Moonen and our Patreon. You can find that and more cool stuff that I work on or have to shill at djstormageddon.com. I also am going to remind folks that I will be at PAX East in May in Boston. Very excited. No panels as of now, but Jeff and I will definitely be wandering around, interviewing devs and hanging out. So if you're going to be at PAX East in May, please let me know, and we'll see you there.
The moment has fully passed, but I'm going to say it anyway. Matt, you can't get engaged. You're married.
Oh my God. Shut up. You're the worst.
Yes, I am. Me for plugs, I am still in talks about producing and editing a podcast on behalf of some academics, talking about period dramas, specifically starting with Rivals and then probably getting into other period stuff. I know very little about the actual thing they want to talk about. I'm just showing up, being like, this is how you do a podcast, and then leaving. Not really. I'm also going to edit it for them because I'm a good person. But yeah, if you want to support me as a human, you can kick me $5 on my PayPal at Frankie B. Writes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We, as always, would like to thank the one and only Case Aiken for not only developing some really cool t-shirt designs that you can find at certainpov.com or on the Certain POV Teespring, but also for designing each episode's awesome show art. Thank you, Case.
Case, today's t-shirt idea, Butt Hawk.
Oh my God, stop.
Butt Hawk!
Case, no. There was a comma.
Case, yes! Everybody post in the Discord how much you want Butt Hawk.
Anyway.
We'd like to thank Miracle Sound for our theme music. It is amazing. It is wonderful. You should go listen.
Also, I mean, well, technically they did go listen because they listened to it.
You should go listen to everything Miracle of Sound has done.
True. And of course, we want to thank the one and only Red Spinks for designing our Dragon Age inspired logo. To see more of his work, you can go to Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
And lastly, thank you for listening. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon. And remember, all Templars are bastards.
Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk. Hawk, 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 Hawk.
Hey, you there! This is Nomad speaking. If you love retro video games and you're itching for some nostalgia, check out the Retro Wildlands podcast. In each episode, I'll use game music and sound to pull you into the gaming experience while I share my own thoughts and maybe a few memories. It's a great way to relive one of your favorite games or learn about a new one. Check out the Retro Wildlands podcast at superpodnetwork.com or wherever you listen to your podcast.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.